Yes, people, what is going on? So I'm just about to start an individual training session, but before I start that individual training session, it's important that I do a warm-up to reduce the risk of injury and improve my performance in the session. So here is my full dynamic warm-up that I do to prepare myself for my individual training sessions. But yeah, that's enough talk from me. Let's get into it. Bosh. So for the setup of this warm-up, all we need is 5 cones. If you haven't got 5 cones, just use 5 objects that you're gonna land about at home. And this middle line here, each cone is separated by around 3 meters. And the 2 cones either side of that middle cone are separated by around 2 meters. But for those middle cones, as you can see here, do not need to worry about them at all. As we gradually increase the intensity of this warm-up, we'll start to involve those middle cones. So yeah, let's get on with the warm-up. Start with a few gentle jogs back and forth. So as soon as we get to this end cone here, jog back to the very start. Just do a couple of these, making sure we're nice and loose to get ready for that session. And we'll slowly, gradually increase the intensity of the warm-up as we go on throughout it. So that's a few jogs back and forth. Now we just want to do a few gentle skips, making sure we're nice and loose, shaking everything off. Little jog back to the very start as soon as we get to that end cone. A couple of gentle skips again, shaking everything off, nice and loose, making sure we're ready. And once again, jogging back to the very start. Now we just want to incorporate a twist into those skips. So it's twisting those hips, shaking everything off once again. Little gentle jog back to the start. One more of these. Nice little gentle skip with a twist. And then jog back to the very start. And now we just want to perform some high knees. So just driving those knees up. Not as high as you possibly can. We're still working into that warm up, so not as high as you want. Jog back to the very start once again. Now we're going to do some heel flicks. So driving those heels up towards your glutes, working our way to the very end, and then jogging back to the start. Now we're just going to do some side to side, so facing the same direction throughout. So facing that way throughout. As soon as we get to the end, once again, jog back to the very start. Opposite way this time. Side to sides all the way to the very end. Nice and gentle. Little jog back to the start. Now we're going to do some karaoke, so similar to side to sides, but going to add the twist, so twisting those hips as we go towards the very end, and then jogging back to the start. Facing the opposite way this time, twisting those hips all the way to the very end, and then jogging back to the start. Now we're going to focus on those groins, and we're going to open up the gates. So open up the gates, nice little shuffle in between, all the way to the very end. Really open up those gates, and then we jog back to the very start. This time we're going to reverse it, and we're going to close the gates. So once again, nice little shuffle in between, closing the gates, working on those groins. As we get to the end, jog back to the start. Now we're going to focus on those hamstrings and kick straight through. Not the full way yet, as we're working on that range of motion. So just kicking through to the very end, and then jog back to the start. Now we're going to focus on those glutes. So we're going to kick across our bodies. Once again, not the full way, as we are in the process of the warm-up, and we don't want to injure ourselves before the session has even started. So working on that full range of motion. Now we're just going to kick backwards, little shuffle in between, then throw those legs back all the way to the very end, alternating a leg, then jog back to the start. Now we're going to do some lunges, little shuffle in between, and perform a lunge, shuffle in between again, alternating the leg in which you're lunging, final one, and then jog back to the very start. Now we're just going to do some squats. So squat, little shuffle, squat once again, little shuffle, squat once again, little shuffle, all the way to the very end. Oh, and then jog back to the start. Final exercise, do some lateral bounds. So I just want to bound from one leg to the other, little shuffle, then bound to the opposite leg. Really working on that balance, really putting that pressure through our joints and getting those muscles ready. Then jog back to the start. Now we just want to do some stationary dynamic stretching, working on those muscles that feel tight. So I tend to get tight hamstrings and tight calves. So I'm going to do some dynamic stretches and work on them now before I gradually increase the intensity. So the few muscles that I like to work on during this period of the warm-up are my hamstrings and my calves, as I tend to get tight hamstrings and calves during training sessions and matches. So I'm just going to do a few straight leg kickouts to get me ready for the session. So just do 5 on each leg, 4, 5, just do a few of these. Working on both legs as well, not just my kicking leg. 4, 5. This is just a period of warm-up that I like to do before I go into that more intense exercise. Just do a few more of these. 5. Really opening up that range of motion now as my muscles are a little bit warmer from that first part of the warm-up. 4, 5. Now I'm just going to move into some more calf-based exercises. So I'm going to go on all fours and really drive my heels towards the floor, alternating the leg in which I'm driving the heel towards. So really getting a good stretch in those calves before I move into the more intense part of the warm-up. So working on those calves. Just a few more of these. And now I'm ready to move on into the more intense part of the warm-up, working on those quick feet, change direction, acceleration and deceleration exercises. So yeah, let's get into that part of the warm-up now. So now that the heart rate's up and the muscles are a little bit warmer and we've done those few dynamic stretches in a stationary position, it's time to really increase the intensity and get ready for that session ahead. So we're going to start off with a few faster paced jogs, back and forth, just doing a couple of these. So as soon as we get to that end cone, jogging back to the start, just do one more of these. Really increasing the intensity now. Now we're just going to do a few skips, so really driving those arms and those knees. So a lot more intensity this time, and as soon as we get to the end, jog back to the very start. Skips once again. As soon as we get to the end, jog back to the start. This time we're just going to do a few headers, so jumping up into the air, little shuffle, jumping up into the air as high as we can, little shuffle, jumping up into the air, and then jogging back to the start. This time a few forward jockeys, so 2 and change, 1, 2, and 2. Get nice and low, really moving those feet. Then once again, end cone, jogging back to the start. This time backwards, so 2 once again, looking over our shoulder, knowing where we're going. 2 once again, and then jogging back to the very start. Now we're just going to do a few acceleration and deceleration exercises. This is very important for football as we're constantly stopping and starting. So we're going to sprint to that middle cone, stop as quickly as we can, then sprint to the final cone, stop quickly as we can again, and jog back to the very start. So just sprint, stop, then jog back to the start. Let's do one more of these. Sprint, stop, stop. Really good for those hamstrings. Now we're just going to do a few quick feet exercises. So this one is like it's called a triangle. So 2 feet in, 2 feet out between the side of the first cone, and then sprinting all the way to the very end. So 2 feet in, 2 feet out, then sprinting all the way to the very end, and a little gentle jog back. Let's do one more of these. 2 feet in, 2 feet out, then sprinting all the way to the very end. Whew. Start to get feel a little bit warmer now. This time, just going to do lateral double step. So starting to the left of the cone, and then sprint to the very end. Little gentle jog back. This time starting from the opposite side, 2 feet over, 2 feet back, and then sprinting to the very end. Little gentle jog back. Whew. Now we're going to focus on changing direction. So we're going to sprint to the left cone, and then go back to the top cone there. And we're going to do it on the opposite side as well, but first we're going to start off by going to the left. So sprint to the left, chop in, then back towards the end cone, and a little gentle jog back. This time on the opposite side, so sprint, change direction, then to the end cone, then a little gentle jog back. This time we're going to work laterally, so we're going to sprint to the middle cone here, laterally shuffle to the left cone this time, and then work our way to the top cone there. So sprinting to the middle cone here, laterally shuffle, and then working our way to the end cone. So we're working our quick feet, change direction, all within this warm up. Once again, we're going to do it on the opposite side. So sprint, laterally shuffle, and then sprint to the end cone, little gentle jog back. This time, we're going to do the triangle, and this is going to be our final exercise of the warm up. you'll start to feel, you can hear me now as I'm heavily breathing, that my heart rate is a little bit up and I'm more ready to get into that session. So we're going to sprint to that left cone there, back to the middle cone, or first cone, sprint to the right cone, back to the first cone, sprint to the middle cone, back to the first cone, and sprint all the way to the very end. We're going to repeat this twice and this is going to be the end of the warm-up. So let's get ready to get into it. Sprint to the left cone, back to the start, to the cone on the right, back to the start, middle cone, back to the start, and then back to the very end. Whew. Little gentle jog back. This is your recovery time. Oh, shake everything out. Let's get ready to go again. Keep those heart rates high, those muscles warm. So to the left cone, back to the start, to the right cone, back to the start, to the middle cone, back to the start, and then all the way to the very end. Woo! So that, ladies and gentlemen, is a warm-up. As you can hear, I'm heavily breathing now. I'm all ready to go into that individual training session. And yeah, that's enough talk from me. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And until next time, bosh, let's get on with that session.